Hello, this video will go over proofs of special angles classwork homework topic from the angles unit in geometry. Go over some of the odd ones in the classwork section, and then any problems that prove to be a little bit more difficult, I'll do some of those from the homework section as well. So let's begin with number 83. In the first couple of problems, you're using two very special angles. You're using your knowledge about vertical angles, and you're going to use your knowledge about adjacent angles. Recall from your notes that vertical angles are angles that are equal to each other and opposite on an intersection. So examples of this would be angles 1 and 3 in numbers 82, angles 4 and 5 in number 83. Those are vertical angles. Two more examples of vertical angles on each of those intersections would be the ones opposite that. 117 and angle 2, 52 and angle 6. Those are also vertical angles because they are appearing opposite each other in the intersection. The other important thing to note about vertical angles is that they are all congruent. They have the same measure. So if this angle right here measures 52 degrees, its vertical angle, angle 6, also measures 52 degrees. Now that we use vertical angles to help us find angle 6, I now need to find angle 4 and 5. I'm going to find angle 4 and 5 by first figuring out what 4 is. 4 is easily discoverable because I know what 6 is now. 6 is 52 degrees. But take a look at the special relationship between the adjacent angles 4 and 6. They're not just adjacent. Angle 4 is right here, and angle 6, the angle adjacent to it, which is 52 degrees, is right next to it. But take a look at what they create together. Together, their measures make a straight angle, which means not only are angles 4 and 6 adjacent, but they are also supplementary, which means angle 4 plus angle 6 are equal to 180 degrees. So I'm able to figure out what angle 4 is by saying, okay, angle 4 plus angle 6, which is 52 degrees, has to equal 180 degrees. 180 minus 52. Hold on one second. 180 minus 52 equals 128, which means angle 4 is 128 degrees, as 128 plus 52 make 180 together. So that brings us back to, now that we know that angle 4 is equal to 128 degrees, we can refer back to our vertical angles. 4 and angle 5 are vertical angles, which means they are congruent. So if angle 4 is 128 degrees, angle 5 is also 128 degrees. And there you go. You have now angle 6, angles 4, and angle 5. All the missing angles have been found. Let's move on to a more difficult one. So let's go to 85. When you have expressions that are representing your angles, you need to set up equations to solve them. So that's what we're going to do. But we have to set up our equations based on the relationship between the angles. So take a look at what they give you. They give you 46 here, and they give you 7x minus 3. These two angles are vertical angles, which means they are equal to each other. So I'm going to set up that 7x minus 3 has to equal 46. Now, from here, because I know 7x minus 3 and 46 are the same measure, they're vertical, and now that they're equal to each other, I can solve. So follow your solving steps to solve equations. We're going to add 3 to both sides. 7x then equals 49, and you're going to divide by 7 to both sides, which means x equals 7. And you've solved number 85. Let's move on to a different problem. Number 87. Number 87, these angles that are given are now next to each other. They're no longer vertical angles like in the prior example. They're next to each other. They're adjacent angles, and they share this one ray right here. So we have to more so pay attention to their total measurement. The two angles together make, once again, a straight line, which means that the two angles added together are supplementary and equal 180 degrees. So I need to, instead of setting 5x and 8x plus 11 equal to each other, they're not equal to each other. They total 180. So I'm going to take 5x plus 8x plus 11. I'm going to equal it to 180 degrees because the two together make a straight angle. And now I'm going to combine like terms and go ahead and solve. So 5x plus 8x makes 13x plus 11, which equals 180. I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. That's going to give me 13x equals 169. And now I have to divide both sides by 13. When I do that, I get x equals 13 for number 87. Let's try 89 because 89 has two variables, which means I can't just solve for whichever one I want to solve for first. I have to use the information that's given to me, and that could be overwhelming. So let's try, if I look at 8x and this angle, 4 times 6y plus 1, that's not going to help me because there's two different variables there. I'm not able to solve equations that have two different variables. I need the same variable. So which of these expressions have the same variables? 8x and 19x minus 44. They're both using the x variable. So those are the two expressions I want to work with first together, the ones that have the same variable. So what's the relationship between these two angles? They are opposite each other, which means they are vertical angles. And once again, vertical angles are equal to each other. So because these vertical angles are equal, I'm going to do just that, set them equal to each other. That means I'm going to now solve for x minus 8x from both sides. That's going to give me 11x minus 44 equals 0. And then I can add 44 to both sides, which will give me 11x equals 44. Therefore, at the end of this, x is equal to 4 because I have to divide 44 by 11, and I get x equals 4. But I'm not quite done yet. I still need to solve for y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug 4 into this angle. 8 times 4 is 32, which means that this angle is 32 degrees total. Now, I can find out what y is equal to because I know that this angle, 4 times 6y plus 1, if I take that angle and I add it to this angle, which is 32, the two of them together make a straight line, which means they're a straight angle and they add up to be 180 degrees. So now I can go ahead and begin solving this one. So if I distribute 24y plus 4, and then I have plus 32 equals 180. Combine your like terms, 4 plus 32, 24y plus 36 is equal to 180. I'm going to subtract 36 from both sides to get rid of it, which means I'll be left with 24y equals 144. And 144 divided by 24y is equal to 6. So your answer for number 89 is that x equals 4 and y equals 6. Let's attempt one more difficult one from the homework section. Let's attempt number 96. So once again, 96 has two variables, an x and a y. So we first want to direct our attention to the angles that have the same variable, the 4x and the 9x minus 100. And we want to determine what's the relationship between them. They are both vertical angles, which would mean that 4x is equal to 9x minus 100. So I'm going to use this setup to now solve for x. I'm going to minus 9x from both sides. And that way I get negative 5x equals negative 100. And when you divide both sides by negative 5, you get a x equals positive 20. Now that I have x equals 20, I can replace one of these angles, let's say the 4x, with 4 times 20, which is equal to 80. So I know that this angle right here is 80 degrees. That's going to help me because now I can figure out what 20y is. Together, this angle, which is now 80, and 20y make a straight angle, which is equal to 180 degrees. Therefore, 20y plus 80 equals 180 degrees. When I go about solving this, I'm going to minus 80 from both sides, which means 20y will equal 100. And therefore, y, when I divide 100 by 20, will equal 5. So your answer for number 96 is x equals 20, y equals 5. And that concludes our problem solving section for proofs of special angles.